Hello everyone. In this short presentation we offer some advice to help you prepare for your return to ringing. These notes are aimed for tower captains, steeple keepers and ringers generally. Every tower is different, so it's always important to consider the local circumstances. First of all, I'll introduce myself. I am Alison Hodge and I lead the Central Council's Stewardship and Management Work Group. Most of us are very keen to return to ringing again after what may be a break of many months or even over a year. Before we, as ringers, ring, it's important that the person who is appointed as tower captain, or the equivalent, liaises with the incumbent and church authorities. Maintaining good relationships with them will help us know when and how we can support the church with our ringing, and they in turn will help us, I'm sure. We need to discuss with them what arrangements they wish to make in their church, and they can give us permission to check the bells and the tower, and when we can start to ring again. This is ideally recorded in PCC minutes. While the bells have been rung very little if at all in the last year, things may have still changed dramatically in the belfry. It's therefore important that we check what may have happened, do some basic inspections to make sure that it's safe for us to return to ringing. The procedures to be adopted in your tower would depend where your tower is based and its ownership. These notes are written primarily considering towers in England and those owned by the Church of England, but we recognise that there are towers much further afield in different ownerships and where arrangements will be slightly different and different terminology used. With our church authorities, there are a few formalities that we need to ensure are up to date. These include, for example, any COVID-specific arrangements, the health and safety policy and risk assessments. That's both for the church and the tower. Safeguarding for younger people under the age of 18 and vulnerable adults. Insurance cover, electrical equipment checks, and all the other church policies and procedures. We've said that it's important to check the tower and bells, but who should do so? It's essential that at least 2 people do this together. A few more may be willing to assist, but few towers have the space for larger numbers. Ideally, a church warden or member of the church authorities is included in the small team, along with 1 or 2 people who have good knowledge of towers and bell installations. Towers tend not to be very spacious or clean, so it's advisable to wear overalls and old clothes while checking the tower and bells. You'll need stout shoes or boots that will not slip, and a bump cap or hard hat is advisable, plus ear defenders. Take a notebook and a pen, a good torch and a mobile phone, that's if there's a signal there. A camera is very useful. A picture says 1,000 words, as they say. And a simple stick of chalk is ideal for marking an object without leaving a permanent mark. It can be used to show, for example, a bell number or mark a particular item or feature. Don't forget to collect all the keys for the whole tower, and remember even those to get up onto the roof. Make good notes as you check the tower, including any specific actions that are required. These should be retained for reference by ringers at a later time. They can also be used as evidence if you were ever asked when the installation was checked. A copy should be passed to the church authorities for their attention, as well as the copy filed in the tower. Information about what and how to check the tower is all available on the Central Council website, along with examples of what to record and how to record it on a record sheet. So you're now ready to do your checks, but before going inside, first look around the outside of the tower. For a tall tower, you may need binoculars. Has anything changed since you were there last ringing? Are the louvers still intact? What about the lightning conductor, the flagpole? Is there any damp showing or leaking gutters? No one may have looked around the tower in any detail for many months, and although these are really the responsibilities of the church, ringers may well be interested to know what hazards may in fact have penetrated into the area of the bells and where the ringers ring. Having looked around outside, it's now time to go inside. Is it safe to access the tower? Are the tower steps, ladders and trapdoors all intact and secure? Is there any sign of tampering? Has anything been left that you did not expect would be there? Ask the church wardens what's been happening while the ringers have been absent. Hopefully, the worst that you might encounter is a mesh of spiders' webs and their occupants. Ideally, you will be familiar with the tower that you are checking, so look for things that may have changed. Are there any damp signs inside or water leaks? What are those wet streaks down the walls? Damp paper on notice boards? Or is there that characteristic damp, musty smell? Has anything been disturbed? Does it appear that anyone, whether authorised or not, has changed anything that could affect the ringing? And what about the clock? Has that stopped? If it's wound manually and no one's been in to wind it, it may well have done, and the weights may well have bottomed out and some of the links detached. So make sure that all the wires and hammers are still in position and secure. Check every level from the ground floor to the roof. All the access ways, the intermediate spaces, the ringing room itself, the bell chamber and the roof. Do not assume that all the bells are down, of course. Check that they are before pulling on any of the ropes or entering the bell chamber. With the restricted numbers of people allowed in towers over the last year, some single bells and elecooms have been brought into use. Before ringing any of the bells, do check that the chiming hammers are disabled and that they are positioned safely out of the way of the bells and any of their moving parts. Oh dear, what has happened here in the tower since you were last there? Something like this may be self-evident that the ceiling has come down, but some things may not be so evident. Something misplaced or left behind upstairs, louvers perhaps blown in, or a ceiling blown down, as here, but at another level. And what about birds, squirrels, rats, mice, bats, flies, even thirsty drinkers? It's quite surprising how many sticks birds can bring in when they're nesting, and squirrels can do a lot of damage, even chewing through electrical cables. You may need professional help to clear up rubbish and damage. Remember that some animals carry disease that is hazardous for human health. And please make sure that a potentially valuable set of handbells is stored in clean, dry conditions, ideally in a proper storage case. And now to the belfry and the bells themselves. More detailed summaries of what to look for and what to check in the bell chamber is available on the Central Council website. Go round systematically, checking one bell at a time. Is anything out of place? Does anything look amiss? Are the bolts and screws tight? Are those things that are meant to be fixed actually fixed? Is everything that is meant to move doing so freely? You can carefully move each item slightly. Does the clapper swing freely? Does the bell swing as you rotate the wheel slightly? Does the slider slide? Is the stay sound and bolted tightly? Is the rope in good order along its whole length, especially where the pulleys are? And do those pulleys run freely? If you find anything wrong or unsure, then make a note and come back with assistance if needed and take the appropriate action. Even if everything is okay, complete your records, date it and file it. So once everything appears to be in good order and safe, then it's time to ring up each bell and stand it carefully. Ideally, silence the clapper while ringing the bell up, as this avoids disturbing the neighbours, who are probably very unaccustomed to hearing the bells ring. It also makes it much easier to hear any creaks, squeaks or bangs without the bell sounding itself. It's a good way to check the free running of a bell. Of course, after ringing each bell up, ring it down again and remove the clapper tie. When you have completed all the checks, look around the ringing room and bell chamber, tidy up and remove any rubbish. Take down the out-of-date notices from the notice board and put up current ones. Look to see whether those chocolates and biscuits are now well past their use-by date. So your preparations are nearly complete. Make sure that you complete any of the remedial actions. You'll need to obtain permission from the incumbent and PCC for anything more than basic maintenance, and you may need a faculty for major work, but hopefully that won't be necessary. Plan the first ringing, and remember that some ringers may wish to have a refresher session, perhaps in small groups, with tied bells, before inflicting their ringing on neighbours. It's helpful if the first ringing is by a band capable of assessing whether everything is satisfactory when they ring. Consider the celebrations and other events that you wish to mark. Sadly, you may wish to commemorate fellow ringers or others who we have sadly lost during the last year. Inform the neighbours of when ringing will resume. It's a great opportunity to engage with them. They will not have been disturbed very often by bells for over a year, so it's worth alerting them. So finally, if you are unsure about anything, then please do ask. There is plenty of advice available from various sources in your local ringing societies, from professional bell hangers, and from members of the Association of Ringing Teachers and the Central Council of Bell Ringers. And good luck with your ringing. Have fun meeting up with your fellow ringers once again.